Introduction. This book contains essential information for every beginner when it comes to the Akashic Records. In this book, you will be provided with the basics, including interesting historical points, referencing the existence of the Akashic Records as a very real thing and not just a metaphor that embodies the idea of divine knowledge. I will talk you through what it is and what purpose it serves. We will also discuss how you can develop access to it through meditation and all the different ways you can benefit from the information you'll be receiving. Lastly, I have also provided a guided meditation which beginners should employ as daily practice. In doing so, you can eventually gain access to the records as well. Thanks for downloading this book. I hope you enjoy it. Akashic Records Origins. Imagine this: a supercomputer capable of storing every information about every person who has ever existed on this earth. It isn't just major life events that's recorded in it. However, it will be a repository of every thought, feeling, word, deed, and intent that has occurred, all kept safe and accessible for anyone who is capable of doing so. Imagine all the stored knowledge, the wisdom, and the secrets that this library would hold. Quite the wonder, isn't it? What if I tell you that this exists and that you can gain the chance to discover it for yourself? The Akashic Records, also known as the Book of Life, serves exactly this purpose. However, it is more than just a mere storehouse for memories. What's stored in these records are interactive, and when accessed, they can have a significant influence when it comes to our daily lives, our feelings and thoughts, our belief systems, the relationships that we have, and all of the potential realities that may gravitate towards us. The Akashic Records contain not just a history of modern times, but that of every soul since creation. What this does is connect us with each other, our pasts with our present and everything in between. Many of us are not fully aware of how it works in our lives, but contained in these records are every mythical story or symbol that has managed to touch humanity's existence. From our behaviour, our experiences, as well as the inspiration for dreaming and inventing. The records are thought of as an extension, a portion of the divine mind. It helps shape the levels of human consciousness. Think of it as an unbiased judge, one that attempts to educate, guide, and transform every individual in order for them to achieve the best versions of themselves, uniting physical and metaphysical. It is also fluid, ever-changing and ever-flowing, a continuous coming and going of different futures as humans continue to interact and learn from what the records have already collected. There are many possible outcomes for human life, and though we may not be aware of it, we are drawing data from these records. These data guides our choices, and our futures change according to the very choices that we make today. The records and its origins. Information about the existence of the Akashic Records can be found in various myths and folklore. There are even mentions of it in both the Old and New Testaments of the Bible. Belief in it can be traced all the way back to the Semitic peoples, which includes the Phoenicians, the Arabs, the Hebrews, the Babylonians, and the Assyrians. To them, the records came in the form of celestial tablets that contained humankind's history and is also a treasure trove of spiritual information. We find the first reference to the records in Exodus 32:32. It comes after the Israelites committed the blasphemous act of worshipping a false idol, the golden calf. On their behalf, it was Moses who pleaded for forgiveness. In recompense, he even volunteered to take on the burden of responsibility for the act and have his name removed from thy book which thou hast written. This book, of course, refers to the Akashic Records, where everything is written down. Another reference to the records can be found in the Old Testament, where we are told that this book contains everything about every human who has ever existed. David himself makes mention of the fact that God has recorded everything about him, his strengths and weakness, all the details that come with his existence, even the deeds he has yet to commit. With that in mind, imagine gaining access to this record and all of the things you can learn by doing so. But is it really a book? There are many different ways in which the records have been interpreted. There are imaginings of it being an actual book. Some think of it as a building, a library of some sort that one can enter and browse through. Then there are also people who believe the records is a plane of existence unto itself, not a book nor a building, but a realm that can only be accessed through spiritual means. Whatever shape or form it may take, however, there is a general consensus that it can be accessed or tapped into, allowing the individual great knowledge about the past, the present, and the future. The importance of one's name. Early on, we have established the significance of a person's name when it comes to the records. Moses, for example, volunteered to have his name removed from it as a form of sacrifice in order for his people to be forgiven for the blasphemous deeds they have committed. To better understand this, let's focus more on the record's function as the Book of Life, where its purpose is similar to that of census taking. In it, the genealogical records and names of people destined for heaven can be found. These are the ones worthy of salvation. Those whose names are not found in it will not be able to enter the kingdom of heaven. History-wise, ancient traditions tell us that a person's name carried significance because it was symbolic of their existence. In fact, so great was the bond between a person and their name that a certain type of magic exists between the two, so that ill intent can be brought upon someone just by knowing their name. This makes it equal to things that have a physical attachment to a person, such as their hair or their nails. In ancient Egypt, erasing a person's name on record was no different from destroying their whole existence, basically rendering it void and making it so that they were never alive in the first place. Can you imagine such a terrible thing befalling you? Today, however, it is much harder to simply delete someone's record of existence. Given how connected everything is and how easy it is to leave a mark, whether that to be online or in real life, there will always be a trail of documents or information left behind as proof that we were once here. Even people who passed hundreds of years ago have managed to leave behind traces of themselves. But of course, we are talking about the physical plane of existence here. It is much different when we're dealing with something that exists beyond it, somewhere that only a few people can really reach. That said, it's possible for our names to be removed for these records. There are varying beliefs, but the majority agrees that it is not possible. The moment you are born, your name is permanently writ upon it. Of course, you must also consider that different religions have different beliefs and ideas when it comes to what the Akashic Records really are. In Hinduism, many experts believe that this idea of spiritual record existing was originally from Hinduism. There is evidence to back this up as well, with some of the oldest human records showing that belief in this idea has been prevalent in and around the subcontinent of India long before it was adopted by other Eastern religions. The first mention of this celestial record can be found in the Vedas. The Vedas is a collection of different spiritual scriptures upon which Hinduism is founded. In its written form, the Vedas can be traced back all the way to 1700 to 1100 BC, but scholars agree that it has existed long before that time, preserved through oral tradition which was passed down from teacher to student across the centuries. Many scholars believe that the Vedas could be close to 7,000 years or even older. As we have discussed, the true meaning or true form of the Akashic Records can be difficult to grasp today. After all, it has been interpreted in so many different ways by the different religions that adopted it into their own beliefs. At their very core, however, it can be said that these records are the DNA of the universe. It contains all the information about everyone and everything, every growing and ever-changing as human existence continues on. In the Hindu Vedas scriptures, quite unlike all other interpretations, there is no book or record. There is no building or library that holds all these intact. Instead, you will find a celestial being, a keeper of the records of everything that has happened. This is the only version where there is an entity associated with the records, and the only one where said being does the act of writing down every detail. In the Vedas, the purpose of the records is knowledge for every being so that they may get a chance to develop into perfection and enlightenment. As for the term Akashic Records, it is not something that's explicitly mentioned in the Vedas or in any other ancient Hindu scriptures. If that's the case, where did the name come from? This is attributed to a theosophist called Rudolf Steiner, who first coined the term back in the late 19th century. The word Akashic comes from the Akasha, which is a Sanskrit word meaning space or sky. Despite its meaning, Akasha is thought of as a spiritual ether that can interact with our physical plane. It isn't as simple as mere space or sky. It is the nothingness from which creation arises. This is the nothingness or the void, which remains constant and keeps a record of all that happened within it. The significance of Akasha in Hinduism. In Hinduism, Akasha is considered to be a fundamental element, yes, the same as the ones we're most familiar with: fire, water, earth, wind, and so on. Imagine the table of elements, the basis from which all material things are created. That's similar to how the Hindus see Akasha. It is the first element and the basis for all forces in our universe. This idea is echoed by Buddhism and Jainism. Both also consider Akasha to be infinite space and a spiritual ground for physical phenomena. As a fundamental element, Akasha also serves an important purpose: record keeping. In a way, it is creation itself remembering all that has occurred and keeps a memory bank within the very fabric of its existence. Whilst the records are thought of as having originated in Hinduism, we can also say that it has always been present and accessible for anyone, from any background. It does not discriminate and is not a purely Hindu belief as well. This is one of the most beautiful things about spirituality, and the idea that something bigger than all of our differences exists. Something that every race, every culture, and every religion can share. From the ancients to the contemporary. The oldest known reference to the Akashic Records might have been attributed to Hinduism, but many spiritual researchers and historical scholars have suggested that it is accessible and open to interpretation by other cultures. We have seen references to it from other groups of people such as the Celtic Druids, the ancient Egyptians, and even the early Christians. Of course, they did not refer to it by the name we know today, but the concept is identical, hence that mere coincidence can be ruled out. For example, the Babylonians and the Phoenicians both believed that the Creator kept a celestial record about everything that occurs on earth. Ancient Jewish scripture contain a number of passages talking about the existence of a record containing details about every single human's life. There are mentions of the same thing in Islam, where the Kiraman, Katibin, are two angels who keep a record of every deed, thought, and action committed by each person. The Akashic Records can also be recognized under a variety of names including Cosmic Mind, Hall of Records, Book of Life, the Eye of God, the Infinite Mind, the Universal Mind. Reincarnation and the Akashic Records. Reincarnation, karma, and the Akashic Records are all quite intertwined. To better understand each as individual and connected subjects, we shall discuss them one by one. What is reincarnation? For those unfamiliar with the concept, this is the belief that once our time on earth is up and have passed on onto the spirit realm, we are to only wait for a period of time before we are reborn again. We will receive the gift of life once more in a new body. Some religions believe that humans go through this cycle over and over again, that we are reborn lifetime after lifetime, but retain no memory of the process nor that of our past lives. Reincarnation is also mentioned in the Bible, though the references are indirect. This is because many of the quotations and mentions about it were removed by the Emperor Justinian in 531 AD. He was a powerful man who got his way by confiscating and burning all of the Bibles in his land. Fortunately, the scholars who did the work for him missed a few of the lesser understood passages. This is why we are left with a few. A good example of which comes from the book of John, chapter 1, verse 24 to 25. In it, the apostle was asked if he was the reincarnated Christ or the prophet Elijah returning to earth. This is, of course, just one example of reincarnation as interpreted by one religion. There are plenty others, and though inconsistencies exist between them, the idea remains the same, that the soul always returns to earth in a different body or different form. With that in mind, do know that even if we change bodies during reincarnation, it does not affect our Akashic record. Everything we have ever done in all the lives we have ever lived are written under our name. This is where the law of karma applies. Whatever it was that we have done in a past life will influence our current one, despite the fact that we have no memory of it whatsoever. What goes around comes back around. There is good karma and bad karma. Both happen to keep us accountable for all of the deeds we do, whether it be in this life or our past one. This is why it's important to remember that for every action there is a cosmic reaction that influences our souls and may even affect the path our lives take. This is also the reason why plenty of people blame their karma for both the good and bad occurrences happening in their lives. With the Akashic Records tracking everything we do, it is literally impossible to not experience the effects of karma at some point in our lives. It may not happen immediately, but the universe will always make sure we get our due. Spiritualists agree this is simply the law that the universe follows, cause and effect. However, do not think of karma as a kind of punishment or retribution for past wrongs. Instead, think of it as a lesson, and this is the universe's or the Creator's way of teaching us to be better. It is these lessons that we must carry with us. Rudolf Steiner and H.P. Blavatsky on the Akashic Records. We've tackled the ideas and beliefs that the ancients held about the Akashic Records. This time, we'll be discussing contemporary information about this enigma put forth by two of the most reputable modern-day mystics. According to Helena Petrova Blavatsky, a Russian immigrant and founder of the Theosophical Society, these records are more than just a static repository of data that can be browsed by someone with the ability to do so. Instead, she posits that these records also influence our present. Going back to the idea of Akasha, this element is said to be plastic matter, immutable and creative in its physical nature. It is the very essence of all possible forms of energy, psychic, material, or spiritual, and contains the seed of universal creation which can spring forth guided by the divine spirit. With that in mind, then it is plausible for Akasha or the Akashic Records to have a hand in what happens in the now, creating a number of different possibilities for every human. Rudolf Steiner gives us our first insight into what the records might actually look like. He is an Austrian-born educator, philosopher, and founder of the Anthroposophical Society, who had the ability to perceive knowledge that was beyond our material world. Steiner was able to tap into the spiritual world, a place much like Akasha, and he describes it being as real as the world we live in. He also suggested that his ability could be developed by other people, allowing to experience what he has seen and glean important information that could help them discover their soul's path and their life purpose. The work of Edgar Cayce. Among the contemporary sources of information about the Akashic Records, Edgar Cayce is widely considered to be one of the most prolific and extensive. A Christian mystic, a clairvoyant worker, and founder of ARE, he possessed the unique ability to enter an altered state of consciousness, accessing information from the records, whilst his body rested on a simple couch. No extra frills, no need for a fancy setup. The accuracy of the work he has done is embodied by the dozen biographies and books he has published, all of which explore the different facets of the information he has provided, as well as the topics he has discussed. Often when asked about the source of the knowledge he possesses, Cayce always points out two. The first would be the subconscious of the individual who requested the reading, and the second would be the Akashic Records. Yes, he had the ability to not only access the records, but also bring back the details he learned from it. Cayce's experience of accessing the records. One of the most astounding things we can learn from Cayce's experience is how vividly he describes the journey itself. His description of it is a story unto itself, but the thing that stands out the most is his vision of a physical hall, one without walls or a ceiling. There he is met by an old man who then hands him a large book, which he can assume is the record associated with the person he is seeking information for. After he has been given the record, Cayce proceeds to choosing the right information that would be most effective when it comes to aiding the person during that point in their life. The contents of the records will not be divulged in its entirety. During these readings, only what is helpful would be given, but further insight can be provided once the person has begun working through their problems by using the information from the records. Because Edgar Cayce's readings, we can better understand that it's us that writes the story of our lives through our interactions, the good or bad deeds we do, and the thoughts we have. What the Akashic Records show is that these things impact our lives in the present moment, also influencing all the possibilities and probabilities we pull toward us. Explorations of our own records will ultimately give us a peek into our nature and our relationship with the universe. Think the bigger picture and our place in it. Many of us do not dare to imagine how much power we really have when it comes to creating our possibilities. Whilst we may have discussed the relationship of karma and our past deeds affecting our present, we must also understand that we are more than our histories and the lives we have lived. The Akashic Records will reveal this to us and open our eyes to our soul's path and our life's purpose. Accessing Akashic Records. We've established that throughout history there have been gifted people who are able to access the Akashic Records and use their ability to help others throughout certain periods in this life. But you need not be inborn with the sensitivity in order to achieve the same thing. Access to the records can be developed, and in doing so, you can benefit from the knowledge it holds as well. Many scholars agree everyone has the inherent ability to access and view these records. However, because we lack the knowledge and training to perform it, we are not able to flex this muscle as often as possible. If you're interested in getting started, the first thing you need to do is practice. This will help you hone this particular skill and make you more comfortable when it comes to doing it. Below is a simple guide you can use. The process begins with learning how to completely relax your body, but keep your mind completely conscious. This state of expansive awareness is essential for viewing the records you wish to access. Basically, the longer you can remain relaxed physically and aware mentally, the more information you'll be able to discover and remember. The next step is to believe that it is possible for you to access this information. Once you close yourself off to the idea, then you're also closing the doors of the records hall as well. It's difficult to overcome this particular step. After all, belief in what you can see and touch has been deeply ingrained in our system, so anything that defies it is often thought of as impossible or mere flights of fancy. Start with baby steps during this part. The key here is to stay curious and do your best to broaden your perspective on the subject. Once you open yourself up to possibilities and to new experiences, you are likely to draw those very things towards you. Remember, you may not speak it out loud, but the universe knows, and it can read the energy you're giving off. The next step is transcending your biased mind. This is quite possibly one of the most challenging phases when it comes to entering the records hall. After all, our mind already has preconceived notion about ourselves and what it would like to see or not see in the records. Our mind wants to be in the right and not wrong when it comes to the life we're living. It can also get attached to its own biases and the experiences it would rather avoid. All of these things can influence your perception and make your viewing inaccurate. It is our ego working to resist certain things or creating certain fantasy imagery that help boost our sense of worthiness. How can you discern between ego and spirit whilst viewing your records? If you feel a kind of emotional pull towards any given direction, then this will be your ego at work. Getting past this can be difficult, but again, practice should better help you in differentiating between the two. If you're viewing someone else's records, it should be much easier given that you wouldn't have the same biases towards it. Energy is important. In order to access your Akashic record, you'll also need to surround yourself in healing and protective energy. If you feel 100% safe in what you're about to attempt, it is much easier for your body to relax and for your mind to retrieve what it is you're looking for. If you have any anxieties or hesitations about the experience, however, you might begin to rush through the experience and not even see the information you receive. To get started with this, simply practice visualizing a great ball of impenetrable light surrounding you. Know that this will protect you and keep you safe during your journey, making sure that you do not need to fear anything or anyone, and that information you receive is genuine. The journey you might experience. The journey isn't always the same for everyone, but in order to tap into the plane where these records are kept, you'll have to maintain a peaceful environment around you. Know that when you enter the records hall, you are also entering a deeply meditative mindset. It is only through consistent meditation will you truly learn how to quiet the mind, without losing awareness or drifting off into sleep. You will be able to access your Akashic records through sight, through hearing, and you will feel a certain level of awareness within your body. It is said that no one person will experience this journey in the same way, because our souls send out unique frequencies that differ from one individual to another. Liken this tuning to different stations in order to find one that you really resonate with. Once you manage to hit the right frequency, you'll just know, for you will feel that awareness. You will also feel more aligned with the universe and greatly in tune with all that is around you. Know that this is never possible in just one go. Even those who have developed the ability or were born with it will sometimes need a few tries in order to get it right. This is because our minds are naturally hyperactive. It tends to run through different ideas at great speeds, and we must learn to slow it down and make it focus so that we can download the information we require from the records. People who have done this before, or those who do it on a regular basis, talk about how it only takes a few seconds to retrieve lifetimes worth of information. It truly is a fascinating experience. Can you truly trust the information you get? Once you're certain that it hasn't been tainted by your ego, you must trust in the fact that any of the enlightenment you receive through these records cannot be forced to change or manipulated in any manner. You will know you're receiving the correct one because you won't have to exert too much effort for it to be presented. In fact, it will come when you least expect it to. As long as you stay open and meditate, these spiritual insights will appear to you. Your mind simply needs to continue being receptive. First-time practitioners of meditation should also be very patient with themselves. This is akin to trying to learn how to bike. You will have hesitations and fears that might prevent you from maintaining your balance. You can get distracted or be too focused on the wrong thing. Once you shed all of these things, however, you become steadier and no longer afraid. It is just as important to never fear what you find in your Akashic Records. You will not be given its contents entirely, but only what your soul needs in that specific point of your journey. This information is often healing or enlightening, helping you move towards the right path that's meant for your soul, and can even aid towards finally releasing any burdens you may still carry from the past. Our purpose and the Akashic Records. In its essence, the records are a map of our soul's path through eternity and can reveal important things about yourself, your purpose, and your past influences as well. Remember, all of our souls have its own purpose for existing on this earth, and at any given time, there are a number of different factors compelling us forward. Often these influences affect us without our conscious knowledge, and as such, we also often miss important signals, failing to realize our purpose. By using the knowledge the Akashic Records imparts, we can figure out the right path we should take and what our purpose might be. It could be a spiritual purpose, a personal purpose, navigating relationships. Most of us have grand ideas about what our purpose could be. We tend to think that real purpose only matters if it changes the world in some way. However, this is not always the case. In fact, even the simplest purposes matter in the grand scheme of things. For example, being a loving and supportive parent is one of the greatest purposes a human could have. The choices you make as a parent at present will ripple through time and can affect the generations to come. If your purpose leans towards the more professional or creative side of things, it matters as well, even if it feels as if you're contributing to something small. Every action you make will be added and will change the pattern of the weave of life. You may not be able to see it right now, but this is where the Akashic Records can help. Through it, you gain better insight when it comes to your place in the world and realize that what you're doing matters. A guided meditation for accessing the records. Through this meditation, not only will you be able to read your records and find the information you need for this moment, but you will also be granted an opportunity to ask a question. This could be about your goals, your spiritual state. your spiritual state, purpose, personal desires for change, and so on. You can also opt to simply open yourself to what insights might present to you there. Here's how to begin. Get into a position you find comfortable. Apply your meditation practice of relaxing your body and letting your consciousness slowly flow into your heart center. Continue meditating and your breathing exercise while you visualize a stately building appearing in front of you. Imagine how big it is and how pristine the facade is. On top, you find a sign that says Hall of Records. Approach the building carefully whilst looking around. Try to visualize how beautiful the interior is despite how plain it might seem. Feel the warm light emanating from it as well while you walk around. In the middle of it all, you will find a podium upon which a large book rests. This is your book of purpose containing all the power and wisdom of your eternal self. At this point, take your time with asking a question or stating your intention for being in the hall. Once you've decided, speak it to the book. As you do this, you will notice the book flipping open until it stops to the page containing the guidance you require. Some people see words on the pages, whilst others see images instead. It depends upon the person viewing it, but always make note of what you find within the book. Do your best not to rush the process. If this is your first time, the knowledge might come to you in fragments. Trust that the rest of it will be delivered to you as you develop your sensitivity. Again, we place emphasis on continuous practice. Not only will it help you gain access to the records, but it will also make you more intuitive towards understanding the fragments of information you're being given. At first, it may seem like you're piecing together a difficult puzzle. This is normal and you should not stress over it too much. How long will it take you to get better at it? This varies from person to person. The key, of course, lies in continuously practicing meditation and trying to access the records whenever possible. This will help you become more familiar with the process and significantly lessens the hesitations and fears associated with it. How the Akashic Records can transform your life. Aside from helping you find your life purpose and soul path, these records have plenty other benefits it can provide you with. This is especially so if you have been going through times or have been struggling with finding your footing when it comes to what you want out of life. Here's what the records can help you with. Clarity. This is important if you want to make big changes in life but have been confused with all the signals or information you're receiving. It can be very easy for everything to become muddled, leaving you stuck and unable to decide. The records help by providing you with insight into your situation, enabling you to cut through all the mixed signals and find the ones that truly count towards your goal. More intuitive decision-making. By becoming more aware of your soul-level gifts, you would be able to make powerful decisions that align with what your soul wants, instead of simply following your ego. Removing the cause of recurring issues. A lot of us tend to have struggles that might feel endless and clinical. In order to break free from this, we must find the root cause. For this, the records would be very helpful, as you'll be able to see the patterns you have had in life and any karma influence that might be affecting you right now. In learning this, you can begin making the necessary changes in order to really begin the process of change. Discover infinite possibilities. We have established the fact that at any given time, each one of us have an infinite number of possibilities for future outcomes. The records will enable us to explore these and provide us with a means of seeing just how your present choices are affecting what we may become in the future. It can be difficult seeing all that potential when you're struggling, but allow the records to enlighten you so you can persevere through the challenges knowing what awaits ahead. Strengthen your spirituality and connection with the divine. The process of accessing the records connects us with our soul and the divine universe. Just having the knowledge that there is a greater power at work can bring so much comfort and healing to so many people. It can help boost their confidence and give them the push to start seeking actual life purpose. This can also become the catalyst for people to start making better choices and doing right by others. Once you realize that what you do in this life affects the next one, you will surely do your best to live well. Whilst the Akashic Records may not be able to solve every problem you have, it will provide you with the means of doing so. Knowledge is power. The more you understand your situation and all the factors affecting it, the better you will become at deciding on what you really need and what needs to be removed, because it is no longer serving you. Remember, the records will not show you your path and purpose. It is up to you to figure that out based on the information it will provide. Trust your intuition and be more receptive to what you're being given. This is the only way through which the records can truly improve every aspect of your life. Conclusion. I'd like to thank you and congratulate you for transiting my lines from start to finish. I hope this book was able to help you to better understand what the Akashic Records are, what purpose they serve, and how it can benefit your life. The next step is to apply what you have learned and try gaining insight to the records as well. It is simply a matter of shedding some of your old beliefs and opening up your mind to the possibilities it can create for you. There's nothing to lose and only plenty of wisdom to gain. I wish you the best of luck. This has been Akashic Records, Beginner Guide to Read Akashic Records, Discover Your Soul's Path and Life Purpose